All right, what's up, everybody? My name's Chris. I'm here with my normal colleague, Brian. We got a real special treat for you folks today. We got a special event. We were asked by the upcoming garage band, punk band, Grim Creeper. We were asked by them to help them on how to write a song. And this is something that me and Brian know quite a bit about, as usual. And we're going to help them out as they play. You can hear in the background, you can hear them fiddling around with their instruments and getting things tuned up. So, Brian, how do you think today's segment's going to go with the Grim Creepers?
Well, Grim Creepers, I know their bass player Dave. I knew him from high school. I can tell he's into this. He's looking at me. He's winking at me. He knows what we're talking about. He's got, he's got a lot of knowledge on the bass, but there's a lot that goes into songwriting, and we're about to find out just how good they are.
That is darn right, Brian. We are going to find out how good they are and if they need our advice or not. So let's talk about Rodney on the drums.
Oh, Rodney, he's been playing I don't know how many years, but I can tell he's got his form down.
He's been playing for 10 years.
Well, I can tell he's been playing for a while, Chris. I see that he knows when he's supposed to hit that cymbal. You see that downbeat that he's going for?
Yeah.
With the bass drum, at the same time that you're gonna want that signifies maybe the start of a measure.
Okay.
And that's where they're going for. That's what they're shooting for with Rodney on drums. He's going to be on that downbeat. Now you might see 16th notes being played by the guitar player with those up and down strums.
Yeah, our guitar player here for Grim Creepers is Mike. Mike on guitar. So keep talking, keep telling us about Mike, Brian.
Well, Mike's definitely. It looks like he's using a heavy pick. He's playing a Les Paul. It's a custom, but he might not be accustomed to playing it because I can tell he's struggling. He's trying to keep meter with that drummer Rodney, but he's also trying to sing harmony, and I don't know if I like that for him. I think he's not quite ready for that singing part, but it's good to see some practice going in for Mike right now in that category.
Absolutely, Brian. Yeah, Mike has missed a few string hits so far when he's been playing. He messed up on one chord. It was an E minor instead of a C. So he's been dealing with some issues so far, Mike has. But we need to talk about the singer, Brad. Brad is having a tough time as well. I think the drummer's doing good, and the bass player, Dave, is having a good night so far. But Mike's struggling on strings, and Brad's having some vocal cord issues.
Well, Brad's definitely more of he's got a throaty voice. He's got one of those raspy voices.
Right.
And when he's getting into the fucking band practice room with his colleagues there, he might have a long night ahead of him if he's trying to scratch out those notes like that. He might want to go to vocal lessons. I have a friend named Karen that gives lessons. I'm going to tell Mike and Brad. Both of them need to learn how to sing a little better, but I love what they're doing with their lyrics.
Yeah,
did you hear that last lyric?
I heard the last lyric about like the lion, don't mess with my lion, or I don't know, something about like don't mess with my lion, or I'll fight you, or something like that.
Yeah, it had something to do with a fighting lion, and I like that imagery is real good.
That anger and that angst coming from a garage punk band.
Yeah. What is that? That's like kind of going for an imagery thing. And I could see where they're going with the lion imagery, and maybe they want to talk about politics as a punk band. Maybe they got some anarchy in them. They could really ride that wave. I see they dress pretty punk, and I like the way they're looking. What do you think about Rodney's hat?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing I noticed when I entered this garage was Rodney's hat. Oh, it's a great hat. excellent choice by him as far as like the way rock stars should dress.
Yep, I like how it's backwards. You see how he's got the backwards hat look going on?
Absolutely.
That's a common thing with drummers. You don't want that bill getting in the way. You want the sweat going down the backside. You want your hair tied up behind because you got long hair as that drummer, as Rodney does, and you're gonna want that backwards hat. So it's almost like a sweatband, but you do get to like show off what your favorite baseball team is if you're wearing he's got the Cubs hat on. I love the Cubs, and it's good to see a Cubs fan on drums. But man, he needs that footwork going now, and.
Yeah, he's got some double bass issues every now and then, but that hat makes up for it, Rodney. But I just want to say, as far as Mike's pants go, I like the rip in the knee. I like the one rip in one knee. I think that's kind of rock star. The t-shirt could be slightly better. I don't like the color orange, Mike, but I'd probably go with like white or gray. Maybe a little like graffiti or writing on it or whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, besides Mike and Rodney, I really, really like Dave's tattoo on his neck. It kind of like really symbolizes rock music. Grim Reaper.
Yeah, the Grim Creeper is their band name, but what's cool about that is the tattoo is of the Grim Reaper. And
Exactly.
I think they got that idea from Dave's tattoo for the band to really just kind of take that almost like dark imagery from the Grim Reaper character from Death Lore.
Exactly. Yep, Brian, I have a little, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you about this. I have a little inside knowledge about that tattoo. I can't believe you guessed it spot on. Maybe you talked to Karen, our outside analyst, our helper on this job here. But Karen had talked to Dave, and they did get the band name from his tattoo. So did you talk to Karen, or was that a total educated guess?
Oh, I did hear that story from Dave himself. I did not hear from Karen.
Okay.
But Karen has been an associate of mine in going into this today, into this event. I've been talking to Karen about their vocal progress. She said Brad's been hitting higher notes. She's got him hitting higher notes than he's used to, but he can't really handle the high G. The high G is very tough for him. He can't get into soprano range yet, but they're looking closely at Mike. Mike might be able to hit those higher notes falsetto, and that'll help with their songwriting and also with their composition. Vocal arrangement might be key for them in the next coming months, because that's what's next on the chopping block for this group.
Yeah, that's right, Brian. So Brad is going to be backed up by Mike. Is that what's going on? So like Mike is going to back up Brad then.
Right, yeah, so I was gonna say, now that they have at least one guy doing harmonies, maybe Dave can be more of a showman. Bassists usually do a lot of the moving around on stage. If they're a good bass player and they have that stable position that Dave's working with his right-hand technique, he can maybe move around, dance to the music, and show the crowd how much fun he's having. And that's all a matter of how good that drummer's playing for Dave to move to that beat.
That is damn right. And for those out there like wanting to know how to write a song, all these clothing aspects, the hat, the tattoo, the hole in the knee, strumming the right chords, these are all crucial to being able to write a good rock song. So if you're down in the mud and think like, I can't write a song, what the fuck? You gotta just check out this podcast right now and learn how to do it like Mike, Dave, Rodney, and Brad.
Yeah, these guys, they do have the look. I think they have the drive and the determination. But what we got to talk about here is the songwriting, song composition. Their lyrics are coming in hot with a lot of the imagery of maybe some predatory creatures in the wild, and maybe get into the politics and maybe some angst and some anger. But what I would say is maybe focusing on the verse. The verse, you're going to want to have a closed hi-hat riff on the drums. You're going to want to maybe be subdued with some palm-muted chunking on the guitar playing, and maybe a little bit of some low-register vocals, okay? And you could maybe switch to floor tom. Hitting that floor tom might not hurt what they're going for in that first verse that I've heard.
Very, very good analysis, Brian. One thing I've noticed, they could use a little contrast. Contrast in music is very essential. You want to have contrast, like have a break in the song, have it mellow out for a moment, and then kick back in with a kick-ass heavy riff. And these guys so far haven't done that, but maybe that's just their style. That's fine with me, but I'm just mentioning contrast for the Grim Creeper repertoire.
Right, contrast is key. That's what I'm saying. With that first verse, you come in with those palm mutes and maybe with a little bit more subdued dynamics, and then when you break into that chorus on open hi-hat or ride, then you're going to have, on the drum set, you're going to have a different feel, and with the chords being more open, more full, gives the vocals room to break out and hit those higher register notes that Karen's been talking to Brad and Mike about in the previous weeks here.
Yeah, absolutely. And just listen to Brad tearing it up on the vocals. I just can't believe this guy. This is the Grim Creeper, people. This is a crazy band that's doing a real good job. Now, as far as song structure, standard philosophy goes intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, end. But that's just standard, and you know that the Grim Creeper's not paying attention to standards. I mean, just look at the outfit of Mike.
Yeah, they don't care about standards, I can tell, but they might want to take a page out of the book, because there is a songwriting book, so to speak. And that verse chorus, that standard verse chorus, bridge chorus, end, that's very important. And you might want to come up with a hook.
A hook, yeah.
Maybe like a signature lick. Or
Brian, the book you're talking about for how to write a song, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the John Daniels 3rd edition? Or what book are you talking about?
Well, John Daniels has a couple editions. The third one I haven't seen yet, so I'm not referring to that. I actually like I think the guy's name, it was the Roshan. The Roshan book. It's not Russian, it's Roshan. The guy's last name is Roshan.
Oh,
not to be confused
confusing
with Russian, but there are a lot of good Russian bands out there and good composers in the Russian language, I'll tell you that much. I like Tchaikovsky, I like all sorts of music.
Yeah, Tchaikovsky and Zadanoff are both excellent composers. But so you never saw the 3rd edition, so you're mentioning a different book by Daniels?
Roshan.
Oh, Roshan, I'm sorry, it was Roshan.
I didn't see those editions you're talking about. The third one's a little peculiar to me. I've never heard of that one. The 2nd edition really gets into breaking down verses, choruses, slicing them up into the various chunks, getting those little 8th-note grooves together for the drummer. That's what that book's I've been known to do, for like getting the drummer in the zone.
All right, yeah, now talking about the drummer, I see that he's absolutely using a Pearl Export 5 Classic Series orange tint. And, this is a great kit. You couldn't have come more prepared if you're the drummer at this moment.
Yeah, well then, look at this setting. Look at that Marshall amp, that Marshall cab. You got one of those Carvin amps as well, and you got good microphone settings. I can hear the feedback. That's intentional, that feedback.
It's intentional punk rock music feedback, right, Brian?
Yep, that's part of the songwriting. That's part of the culture. You want to be loud, you want to be in people's face, and you want those that overdrive pedal to really scream at that audience that you're shooting for there.
Yeah, we've helped a bunch of different bands with their writing, and this is the first time we've helped out a punk rock garage band style band, like the Grim Creeper here. It's the first time. Besides that, we've really helped with blues, blues bands. We've helped with some opera music and things like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm just watching Dave, and I don't like what he just did. He's switching from the root note, and he's trying to hit a minor third.
No.
He's trying to hit a minor third when they got that chorus riff going. I don't like hearing that in the bass register
no.
at all. Yeah, for punk rock, I wouldn't advise that to Dave. Maybe he'll take that into his consideration for their next rehearsal. I'm gonna have a one-on-one with him about that minor third on that third chorus there.
Yes, I hope you have a one-on-one because he needs to understand that. That is crazy. What an awful mistake. But anyway, he'll continue to get better, and especially with our advice, he'll get better. But you just need to talk about the strings on the bass guitar right now, Brian.
Well, his strings, another thing I did notice is they're a little bit old. They don't have that vibrant new string sound that you need in punk rock. For especially he uses his pick. And not all bass players use a pick, but when he's using that pick, you gotta get that signature pick sound. And you get that primarily from new bass strings, and you gotta get that EQ set for that exact sound. And if you can get that consistency out of his picking with new strings coming through that rig, I could be behind what he's doing. But right now, I'm not so sure. We'll have a talk with Dave about that.
Okay, another talk coming up. And we're talking about strings, but the whole time that you were talking about strings, I was just paying attention to that snare drum just banging away. I can't believe the tuning of that snare drum, in my opinion, is bullshit. I mean, if you're gonna do punk rock, if you're gonna do garage band stuff, the tuning can't be like that. I mean, you gotta tighten it up a little, man. Get a little pang going on with that snare. It's crazy. It's crazy to me, but to make up for it, bass drum sounds good. I had a little misstep with the double bass apparatus earlier in the occasion here today, but the snare sounding fantastic besides the tuning problem. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Sometimes those snare frequencies in the high end really fuck with your ears, and then sometimes you think you're hearing a bad snare. But that snare isn't bad. It's just his approach to it. His rim shots are off. His rim shots aren't right on where they need to be, and also his dynamics are a little harsh. You want to be a little bit easy on that snare drum to keep the ear from thinking it's hearing a bad snare.
Right. But he does have the hat that he chose to wear, which makes up for it.
So what about his hi-hat work, though? I thought you were going to say he does have the hat. He does have it under control. You see his hi-hat work with the left foot?
I get what you're saying. I was talking about his actual hat.
Yeah.
You brought in the hi-hat,
well,
people.
I see that, it's part of his drumming is he's got those, that hi-hat there, and it's what you got to be solid on the hat.
Exactly. And the hi-hat carries the whole song. You can't have a song without a hi-hat. It's impossible, pretty much.
That top hat, the one that you mainly hit, the top hat, he really needs to maybe like open it, close it at the appropriate times though. He's going for too much of the opening on the downbeats and too much of the closing on the upbeats, and I think he's trying to show off on the hi-hat, and where it needs to be more about what the song needs is what he needs to figure out on that drum set right now.
I completely agree. It's more about what the song needs. And when they came up to this gig here in this garage here, I saw them unloading their equipment from the pickup truck that they were driving, and the way that they unloaded their equipment was disturbing to me. I was really concerned, but I was frankly quite surprised once they started plugging in their shit and playing. But before that, when they were unloading their stuff, I saw Dave, I saw Brad drop a couple items. I saw that it was packed not very nicely for
very haphazard.
Very haphazardly, and thank you, Brian. And it's just the way they packed the truck,
Yeah, well, with packing shit, it's almost like, do you care about your shit? And that goes into songwriting. If you don't have stuff to play on that's properly taken care of, you're not going to have a good song that you just wrote. How are you going to perform that song? Yeah, how you gonna?
Yeah, how you gonna write a song if you're not taking care of your equipment? So, Brad and Mike, take care of your shit.
Exactly, is what I was thinking, Chris. But back to songwriting, I think lyrically, they're really screaming out the vocals. I can respect that. Maybe talk a little bit more about relationships. Like, maybe you broke up with your girlfriend. Maybe talk about that in the lyrics. A lot of people can relate to that. Maybe talk about nature. Like, is nature being destroyed by man? Does that make you mad? Are you more of a gutter punk that doesn't care about nature? Just talk about it and shit.
Genius revelation and information by my colleague Brian. This is why we're partners, Brian. This is why I love working with you. And the Grim Creeper should pay attention to what you just said. So I've heard him talking about lions and lions' claws, clawing somebody. I'm guessing like somebody that they're mad at from their past or something like that. Like, don't mess with me, I'm a lion. I heard him earlier talking about climbing a mountain and like how hard it is to get to the top of the mountain. And that's all metaphorical stuff. No, it's all great stuff. But at the end of the day, if you got a relationship problem or a girl you can talk about, that's what you fucking talk about.
Or drugs and alcohol. They could get into, like, people like to hear songs about drugs and alcohol and maybe jobs, quitting jobs or getting jobs or all sorts of stuff. Maybe like you quit school and
yeah,
I like when punk rockers do that. Like they get really into the nitty gritty, of society, and that's where they're supposed to be coming from. And I don't want these guys to be talking about, I have this plan and that. And
yeah,
it's not all about that.
Yeah, I agree completely, guys. Talk about heroin, like Brian says. Talk about, like doing drugs and like getting left in a bum alley or something like that, and you don't have any life and shit.
No money, just trying to have maybe sex. Talk about sex and like diseases and all sorts of shit.
Yeah, but talk about sex and diseases with mentioning heroin though. You mention heroin and other drugs, okay, guys? That's the way punk rock operates.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. We're on the same page with lyrics, but I just don't see how we're gonna get there with this lineup. With this lineup, we got one guy who loves going to church on Sundays and doesn't have enough going on in terms of what his social life is to even understand the rudiments of it. And you got another guy who's not even out of high school. This guy's not out of high school, man. He's just not ready to even think about these kind of talks. But either way, I mean, he looks the part. I'll give him that. But his high school age is just not of the experience to really get down to what we need out of a lineup. If I was going to manage this band, I'd replace him. I'd replace Brad.
Yeah, Brad's still he's the one that's still going to church and has issues with that kind of thing. And then you got Mike, who's he's not even out of high school yet. So it's really tough for Brad and Mike.
I just got confused about who we were talking about, but that's all right. I don't know their names very well yet, especially those two guys. So, but they do seem to have it going on. They have a lot of potential in this lineup. As far as I can see where they're coming from, and I'm behind them all the way. I'd just maybe get rid of a few of their members.
Yeah, I'd get rid of a couple of their members. So that's our official diagnosis of this band, the Grim Creeper. Thank you, Grim Creeper, for asking us to come to your practice here in your garage and asking for our wisdom and our insight. We're going to give it to you. We're going to give you the wisdom, and it's up to you what you do with it. So I just want to thank them. I want to thank Karen, our colleague, our voice coach. And best of luck to you guys. What do you have to say, Brian, to end this segment?
Yeah, I like what you guys have done. I'd grade you a B-, but I think there's a lot of potential to get up into the A range. Just focus on your rhythm and focus on your fundamentals of how you play your instruments, and maybe get some experience in life and add that to your lyrics. Thanks, guys, for having us.
Yep, thanks, guys. All right, we're out of here.